Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the London Small Business Center's second live stream session. We are celebrating Small Business Week, and we're saluting our guests today who are here to help us with the celebration. The Small Business Center is celebrating Small Business Week by celebrating the small businesses within our community. Yesterday, we celebrated the construction and trade skills individuals, businesses, and today we're celebrating those in the food and beverage industry. With us today, we have Margaret Coons from Nuts for Cheese, and hi, Margaret. And Shannon Kamens from Booch Organic Kombucha. Hello, Shannon. And we also have Kelvin Van Ryn from The Fritter Shop. So Margaret, Shannon, and Kelvin, if I can ask you please to just unmute your phones. I would like to welcome everybody watching this live stream on YouTube and on Facebook. My name is John Anagnosti. I'm business advisor at the Small Business Center and a coordinator of a couple of programs, specifically the Startup Scale Up Food and Beverage program and the Student Entrepreneurship program called Summer Company. Now, what these three individuals have in common is that they all have roots here in London. They've launched their businesses here in London and started as a small business, as a micro business, if you will, with an idea at first. And before we go to each and every one of them and ask them to tell us a little bit about a journey, what I'd like to do is ask you, the audience, if you have a question that you would like to ask these individuals that have started their businesses from scratch, that have created their own journey and mapped out their own journey to success within a short period of time. This is an opportunity for you to pose these questions, to learn from each and every one of them. Having said that, if you want more information on the programs that I mentioned, another program at the Small Business Center, you can visit our website at www.sbcenter.ca for more information. I'm not going to go into that right now. What I'd like to do is start with our guest speakers and ask them please to tell us a little bit about, tell the audience a little bit about yourselves, your skills, your interests, but also about your business, how the idea came about, and where you are today with your business. So Margaret, if I could start with you, and you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your business, how it got launched and where the idea came from and where you're at right now.
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Margaret Coons. I'm the founder at Nuts for Cheese. So I came to London to do my undergraduate degree at Western. Actually, I was an English major, but prior to that, I've been vegetarian since I was 12. I've been vegan since I was about 19. And so food and, sort of exploring what different vegetarian and vegan food options has always been a big passion of mine. I got really into cooking when I was in high school. And then when I was doing my undergrad at Western, I actually was starting to think about what I wanted to do next. And having an English degree has been super, super helpful in my business and my career, but I always knew I wanted to work in food. So I took a job at a vegan restaurant here in town and sort of worked my way up through the ranks there for about 5 years while I was finishing up my degree. And then my original plan was that I wanted to own a restaurant. So I was trying to figure out, I was going to a lot of small business seminars in Toronto and here in London for advice on how to open up a restaurant. And what I ultimately ended up deciding was at the age of 24 with no money, opening up a restaurant maybe wasn't the best idea for me. And so I thought I would try a farmer's market for the summer. So I was the chef at this restaurant and I'd had the opportunity to put a vegan cheese board on the menu. And it actually became a really popular menu item. And so every week I would rotate different cheeses and try out new recipes. And I thought I would just try for the summer in 2015 a farmer's market at the Western Fair. So I every Saturday would go to the farmer's market and sell vegan cheese that I'd made the night before by renting the restaurant kitchen in the middle of the night. And yeah, over the last 5 years, things have changed a lot. So we're now sold nationally in Canada and grocery chains right across the country. We're in about 1,600 stores here in Canada. We've recently launched into the US. And now from that, small restaurant kitchen, we're operating out of a 20,000 square foot plant with 30 full-time employees. So it's been a wild ride. But yeah, we make all vegan cheeses from fermented organic cashew milk, if anyone's unfamiliar with the products, and just launched butter as well.
Right. I was just going to say, you also just recently launched the butter. So nuts for butter.
Nuts for butter.
Shannon, if I could, have you maybe answer the same question. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got interested in Booch, and tell us your story and about your business and where you're at right now.
Sure. So I'm Shannon Kamens. I'm the owner of Booch Organic Kombucha. And I started Booch just over 5 years ago. I was diagnosed with celiac disease when I was finishing up university, and I was experiencing bloating and discomfort in my stomach every single night. And I wanted to figure out how I could actually help myself. So I started fermenting kombucha on my kitchen countertop and experimenting with all of the endless flavor opportunities. So I would start putting in stinging nettle or peppermint. And that's really where it all started, just on my countertop in my kitchen. I wanted to see if London was open to trying this new beverage that no one knew how to pronounce. And so I started to sell it at the Covent Garden Market here in London. And that was really the beginning. That was the pilot of it. And every weekend I sold out. And so the next weekend I would bring more. And it just kept happening. At that time, I was renting just a small 10 by 10 space in the Oldies Village. And that's where we kind of expanded our manufacturing facility. And then now, so we're in over 550 locations across Ontario. We actually got our first retailer in BC, so it's really exciting because we really want to expand nationally. We also released a new product called June just last year. It's a honey and green tea fermented beverage.
Right.
And yeah, so we're happy here. We're really focused on sustainability and connecting with farmers to source our ingredients. We do it all in-house from start to finish. And we really do care about gut health and education for that, and boosting your immune system, which is also really important right now. So, yeah.
Well, I got to say that the first time I heard about a vegan cheese and the first time I heard about Booch was from you too. So, so that was new terminology to me 5-6 years ago. And here it is today. It's common terminology for everyone. And Kelvin, tell us about yourself and the fritter shop.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I want to say I'm humbled to be here because Margaret and Shannon, you guys are two entrepreneurs I really look up to. I think you guys run awesome businesses, and so I just wanted to get that out there first. So I'm Kelvin Van Ryn. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fritter Shop. My business kind of started because I come from a family of immigrants from the Netherlands. So when I lived in Amsterdam with my parents, they had a bakery there, and became well known in downtown Amsterdam. They ran it for about 12 years, and then we immigrated to Canada. That time, to open up another bakery here in Canada. Of course, I grew up working in this in their bakery and just learning the trades from them. And one day we had the idea to make apple fritters, which is officially make on New Year's Eve, and we made went nuts for this. They said, you can't just sell this one day a year, it's all year round. So out of my parents, started selling this all year round. 6 months time, it became best-selling. And I said, Dad, got a business here. Like, let's go with just the flavors. Like, people love this. So that's kind of what we did. He let me do it out of his bakery. He's, a stubborn old Dutch man, didn't want anything to do with it. He let me make it out of his bakery, and I started Kelvin's Fritter Shop. And
Kelvin, you're cutting out on us a little bit. I'm not sure if everyone else is hearing it, but you're cutting it out on us out a little bit. Do you have more than one mic on? I hate for the story to get lost.
Well, that's okay. I don't know. I don't have more.
Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
Okay. So yeah, so I started making more flavors and fritters, and within a year and a half, I outgrew my dad's bakery and said, either I got to go out on my own or figure something else. What we ended up doing is partnering up, and he gave me all of his bakery equipment and all that, and allowed me to kind of expand. I took over his Western Fair Farmers Market location as well, and we made a bunch of different flavors. And now we're at the stage 5 years into the business where we're franchising. So we have 3 franchises open before the end of the year. So that'll be London, one opening in Strathroy, and the last one in Hamilton. So with all that, we're also opening a production facility and try and keep up with it. And it's been a wild ride, but it's really, really cool.
It's amazing. I've had your fritters and they're absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot going on, that's affecting small business today in a way that, we've never experienced before. And of course, I'm talking about COVID-19. Can each one of you, and maybe Kelvin, I'll start with you. Can each one of you tell us how COVID has affected how your business is being operated today? And maybe for Shannon and Margaret, it's in a good way. I don't know, but we'll find out. Kelvin.
Yeah, so we're pretty fortunate, the 3 entrepreneurs here, because we are in the food and beverage industry. We didn't get shut down by it or anything. We had to take a few more precautionary measures. What we did at the fritter shop is we shut down for 2 weeks, reassessed everything, saw what measures we need to put into place. After 2 weeks, we reopened up everything and just, reduced hours. We didn't know how big the impact was going to be. And in the end, it forced us to pivot. And that pivot actually ended up being into the franchise space. So in a lot of ways, it forced us to reevaluate our business and how we were doing things. But again, we were lucky enough that all we had to do was put up some plexiglass barriers, make sure the customer feels safe. We wear our face masks and everything during production. But other than that, we're pretty fortunate to say it hasn't impacted it too much.
Excellent. I've got some comments here on the board. We've got Amanda who says, she's excited to see all the familiar faces. I don't know. I think this could be French, but it says, "Hi, Monique." Is that some message for someone? and of course, there's another comment. It says, 3 amazing business leaders. Thanks for this presentation. We're going to get to the other comments as we move on. But Shannon, let's maybe have you tell us how COVID has affected your business, if it has indeed.
Yeah. I think absolutely. Back in March, I did temporarily lay off almost all of my team members. I really wasn't sure if we were going to be allowed to continue production, and thankfully we were. So within probably 3 or 4 weeks, we brought everyone back. And I was really worried, but I was also thinking that this is the end then. I guess it's meant to be in some odd way, but I'm really, really grateful that we can still supply grocery stores. A lot of the grocery, like the small independent grocery chains or like the restaurants and cafes, it's been a lot harder and we've been moving slower there. So overall, we have experienced a drop in sales. We're really trying to promote the benefits of drinking kombucha and boosting your immune system through all of this. I think it's really, really important to remember that we have the ability to heal ourselves and to really build immunity and strength within ourselves. The human body is amazing. Another aspect of how it has affected us is it's really allowed me to become more efficient with our entire operations. So we were able to take a step back and really look at what we were doing that was inefficient. And so now, what we found is that our cash flow is better, our efficiencies are better. We're only producing what we need. We're not overproducing. Really allowed us to kind of figure out what we weren't doing right and adapt in that way. And then also we're building an online e-commerce site because we're not sure what the landscape will be. So, we're being prepared for what may happen in the future. But overall, it's been an okay experience, and it's really helped the business kind of refocus.
That's the right word, right? Is refocus and recenter around new ways of doing business. And I think COVID has forced each and every one of us to think that way. Before I move to you, Margaret, I've got another comment. Love all the businesses. So great to see you all. Now, Margaret, maybe go back to you and tell us a little bit about, how COVID has affected your business.
Sure. So I think I'd probably echo a number of the things that both Calvin and Shannon said. It's definitely been like a huge refocusing. And I think for us, an opportunity has been to be able to sort of tighten up in different areas that we didn't necessarily realize where different focuses were being spread out. I think the biggest thing that's changed for me in terms of grocery is that people aren't shopping grocery stores the same way as they were before. And like Shannon said, a lot of people aren't going to these small independent boutiques and shopping around and taking their time. They're kind of Instacart or Costco or Walmart. There's like a lot more focus on the bigger chains. So it's been interesting to watch for sure. But I think another thing that's been interesting is that it's a lot more difficult to promote your product in this kind of landscape. So, we were scheduled to go to like 15 different trade shows. 9 of them are going to be in the US this year. All of them were canceled, of course. And normally we have, pretty robust demo program. So we have such a try it, love it, buy it kind of product where if people don't have any familiarity with a vegan cheese or they don't really know what it is, there's a little bit more of like a barrier to purchase. So it's been a bit of a restructuring of our marketing efforts and how we really access our consumers.
Yeah, no, that's true. But Margaret, you mentioned something that, I think requires a bit of follow-up. You said that you had, your product is a product that, and like other food and beverage products, is a product that you have to try and, taste and so on. So you're not at those shows. What have you used, or what have you introduced into your marketing strategy in place of?
So we've really shifted a lot of focus to digital advertising and, really connecting with people over social media. We work a lot with influencers as well and different partnerships on Instagram. So we can do, partnerships with different companies to show different ways to use the product, or, working with influencers who can, espouse the benefits of the product or how much they liked it, et cetera. But it's sort of an evolving conversation for sure. I've never thought I'd miss standing in convention centers for 48 hours, but I really do.
I remember those days. Yes, for sure. Shannon, have you had to, pivot in your marketing strategy as well?
Yeah, actually, it's funny listening to Margaret and her saying influencers, and I'm thinking, oh, that's right, I need to start working with influencers. But yeah, like really building our e-commerce website. We started that in, it would have been June, July. So our website is almost ready. And that was our like big take on the pivot. It's coming up with these fermented beverage packs where we can sell to the consumer directly and allow them to kind of consume our product, both Booch and Moon Brew, to really like enhance their digestive functioning and boost their immune system right now.
All right. Okay. So we have a question on the board from Sheila, who's really interested to hear about what some of the barriers have been that you have each overcome. What are some of those obstacles, those barriers that you had to overcome as part of your journey? Calvin, let's start with you.
Yeah, the two that come to mind for me, like I said earlier, I come from a family business, and having my new young perspective on how to run a business clashing with my dad's old-fashioned, old-school way of doing a business, that was really challenging for us. I had a bunch of ideas with, we have to have branded packaging when we sell our fritters at the market, and we have to, we now work with Square as our point-of-sale system, and all these things, they cost money. And my dad, all he thinks about is how do we package it for the lowest cost, and how do we do everything at the lowest cost so we make the biggest margin. But it was getting through to him that these marketing efforts and creating a brand, something that people can get behind, is worth the investment. It's that old saying, you got to spend money to make money. And that's kind of where I was coming from, where, so that clashing was definitely a big thing for us. The other thing, what was my other thing? Well, let's just say I'm one right now.
Okay, so let's go back to the board. There's a couple of questions that I think are similar. And basically the question is this, with all the permitting and licensing, call it bureaucracy, call it what you will, how have you been able to overcome that in starting and launching your business? And Shannon, while you answer that, also talk about what are some of those obstacles that you had to overcome.
Are you speaking about like in terms of regulations and?
Yeah. Let's start with that.
I mean, I think when you start a business, you think that like everyone is out to kind of get you, or you're doing something wrong, or like you feel like you're breaking the rules or something. But like I think everyone is there to help your business succeed. So whether it's the health unit coming in to do an inspection, which we have at our tap room, or the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, coming in to check on your processes. Like we found that you kind of learn as you go, and everyone's there to help you along the way. So in that aspect, I feel like everyone has just been supportive. Even our other certification bodies were ProCert certified. Same thing. I haven't really experienced a complete obstacle with any of that.
Okay. What have you experienced in terms of obstacles, in terms of, any barriers? What were those barriers for you as you launched and started growing your business?
I think because the kombucha industry is so new, there's not a lot of books on how to brew kombucha, how to scale up, those critical parts of your process that are needing attention for health and safety. Like it just hadn't been discovered. So I think the greatest barrier would have been just to figure it out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the craft beer industry, beer has been brewed for thousands of years, and they can kind of take all that information. They know which yeasts are going to produce which flavor profiles. The beer has so much information. So that information piece was a big part of it. And it's what makes Booch special and proprietary, is that we've figured it out ourselves. So, other kombucha brands are doing it differently, and we've all kind of figured out a way to do it.
Right.
With that being said, I would like the industry to become more cohesive so that there are not so many aspects that are kind of left open-ended for each company to decide. So.
Okay. Margaret? Speak first to the regulatory compliance. By the way, everyone, talking about regulatory compliance in the food industry, tomorrow at 10:30, if you haven't registered yet, you can visit our website at 10:30. We do have the City of London and the Fire Services and the Small Business Center that are coming together to speak about those regulatory compliances that you need to know about before you launch your food business. So, Margaret, speak about your experience with the regulatory compliance, and then talk about any obstacles that you may have faced during your journey and how you overcame them.
Sure. So I think, it's kind of a dovetail question, because, a barrier that we had to overcome was really figuring out how to make a product on a large scale in a way that was compliant with the government. And we're making a vegan food product, and it's, like Shannon was saying, very different from a lot of products that had been more traditionally available. So when we're inspected by the CFIA, for example, they kind of come in and they're like, "Wait, what are you doing?" And, you have to, it's like that education piece of, we've done our own science in-house kind of thing, and we're sort of building these new categories. But I think, starting out, it is really, really hard to find affordable kitchen space that's certified. And I was lucky because I had access to the restaurant kitchen where I was a chef. And so I was able to rent the kitchen for a pretty low rate overnight and, store some things there. But it was definitely like, it's a grind in the beginning. And I was fortunate also to have the farmer's market, because places like farmers markets, they often have small little booths that you can rent for relatively inexpensive cost, and then you can sell your products there on the weekend. So for us, that was like a really incredible launching pad. We had the health unit come and inspect us there. So that was like our sort of first introduction to all that kind of stuff. When we first got our first facility that we were in, we actually took it over from Pulp and Press, who is a local juice company I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And so they had a lot of the stuff set up for us, but it was, things like zoning and, how much truck space do you need, loading docks, like who is going to come in and inspect whether, you've got your fire safety up to snuff and everything like that. So for the longest time, it was just me doing that. Eventually, like one of my first key hires was bringing on someone who had a very strong background in the food industry. And so she'd done, quality control compliance and product development for some of the bigger food plants here in town. And she really helped us, scale up our regulatory processes, not only from like a quality control standpoint, but just in terms of like, what you need in terms of manufacturing. And I think probably my other biggest thing other than that regulatory leap and quality control leap would be scaling manufacturing in general. Because we went from, producing products like just myself and whichever friend I could bribe to come help me wrap cheese and saran wrap for the farmer's market to making very large quantities of these products. And, I could make recipes, but I wasn't like a formula person. Like I really needed the support there. And so that was a big adjustment. And it still is. Like we're trying to expand our production capacity all the time. And so it's really about, thinking 6 months or a year out and trying to imagine what kind of capacity you're going to hope to be moving through. And it's always a bit of a chicken and an egg.
And that leads to the other question too. As you're growing your business, and like you mentioned, Margaret, you've gone from enticing your friends and family to come and wrap cheese for you to, buying that big piece of equipment that can wrap, hundreds within minutes. And I'm sure Shannon and Calvin, you all have those big pieces of equipment. So would it have been helpful earlier on to have that incubation space where perhaps, that equipment already existed somewhere, so it would help you to scale up slowly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like one of my first things that I wanted to do when I was looking for a larger production space than the one we were in after the farmers market was I was looking to like find options where I could buy a building where I could actually provide that for other entrepreneurs, because I know it's so, which is, would have been a whole totally different pivot. But I think that kind of space is really limited for people starting out.
So you felt at that time that an incubation center like that would have been helpful to others starting out. Shannon and Calvin, what's your point of view on that? Shannon?
Yeah, I would agree. One of the things that I really liked about starting small was making sure that the cash flow was there and the demand was there. So because of that, we kind of grew very organically. Definitely for us, our big purchase was our bottling machine. And that was like, I think we hand bottled for the first 3 years of the business. Having access to that would have been helpful. Absolutely. But there's always this other part of, as like we're producing a living raw product. So there's part of that where you want to be careful of who you're sharing the space with because of their food safety protocols and ensuring that, people have bacteria and yeast on them. And if it's floating around, we're really careful of that. So I could absolutely see that being helpful and necessary for most products. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Calvin?
Yeah, just to further on what Shannon said, I mean, you have to prove that your product or service is viable. Well, let's say product now. You have to prove that there's a market for it. So to buy these big pieces of equipment for thousands of dollars, it doesn't make sense when you're in your first 2 years, unless you're just blowing up with sales and you can't keep up. But most companies aren't like that. So an incubation space is crucial, and we've all touched on that. Finding kitchen space here in London is so tough. And I was very fortunate. My parents had a bakery. I just worked out of there. But I've dealt with enough entrepreneurs who are trying to find kitchen space. And, you're trying to make it work. I've heard of people going to their church who has a kitchen, and then they get like a few hours there on a Sunday. So it's tough. And having an incubation space would be huge for London, I think.
If there was one piece of equipment that you would want to have early on in your business, what would that be, Calvin?
I want a really big mixer. My hardest job, and I have to keep the recipe of our dough, I have to keep that a secret. So I am the only one who knows it. My dad knows it as well, but he's, moving into retirement. So I'm the only one who knows. So I have to produce all the dough. So if I just had one giant mixer that could make, a month's worth of dough, I'd be so happy.
Shannon, what would that be for you? You mentioned your bottling equipment, right?
Yeah, but if I could have another piece of equipment, I would definitely want, there's these really, really huge fermenting vats that they're able to keep the pressure and add oxygen into the brew while also ensuring that ethanol production is low. So it's like a humidity, temperature controlled tank that's, I'm not sure. It's probably, I think it's $125,000, but that would be my.
Oh, is that all, eh? Shannon, you got a lot of equipment, but is there one piece that you want to get next? Or is there one piece that you wish you had earlier on that you couldn't afford?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Margaret.
That's okay. Yeah, I think like blenders have always been a big thing for us. I started out using the Vitamix from my home kitchen and burning it out, and like it would overheat, and then I would have to put it in the fridge at the kitchen, then wait for it to start working again. So the first time we ever bought like an industrial blender, that was a huge game changer. A piece of equipment that we just recently purchased is a much, much larger blender that's going to be arriving in like 4 months after it gets here from Germany. But that's going to be something that'll be a huge game changer for us. It'll really optimize our process flow and will help like remove a few steps, because the amount of product that we're producing now, we have to batch quite significantly. So it will remove some of that, sort of double handling of things.
Amazing. Hey, question on the board. Do any of you have any formal business education, or have you taken any courses in school, business courses in school?
No.
I took marketing at Fanshawe, but only because my parents forced me to. They wanted me to have a plan B, but if I didn't have to, then I would have just jumped right into it too.
Okay. Now, another fun question is about the face masks that we were forced to wear now during COVID. If COVID had gone away, would you want, in the food and beverage business, would you want people to continue to wear masks?
I think that like any PPE, it is designed to keep people safe from whatever necessary threats are in the environment. So I think like we wear a lot of PPE at work anyways, and it all serves a purpose. So I think if there was no COVID, then perhaps that purpose wouldn't be there. But I think it's an interesting question. I don't know.
I mean, there are health department requirements that you have to meet on a consistent basis in your operations, which may include hairnets and facial hairnets, that sort of thing. Lab coats. I don't know what else help you along here, but I guess the viewer was thinking about continuously wearing the face mask inside your production facility. Whether that would be something that you would welcome or not.
I think if there wasn't the threat of a pandemic, it wouldn't be necessary. But like everything else, it would just be based on what the risks are. Like we wear gloves, and we wear, like you're mentioning, boot covers, hairnets, lab coats all the time, and they all serve a purpose. So,
right on. Okay, Shannon.
Yeah, I agree with Margaret. If COVID didn't exist and we weren't in a pandemic, and someone wanted to wear one, they're welcome to. But if there's no requirement, then I'm happy for them to not. Yeah.
Calvin?
Yeah. On the one hand, I feel like if COVID was gone next month, or let's say, a year from now, you're still going to have people that are concerned about it. So I think it's just something that you could, show, we're still being extra cautious and wearing our masks and everything. But in the end, we listen to the professionals, right? If the World Health Organization says, we're good, we're safe, then, so we in business learn, as long as, CFIA or whoever is happy, then we're happy as well. So.
Okay, thank you. I think this is the subject matter a little bit, but it's still business related. Talk a little bit about mentors, whether or not you had mentors as you were growing your business. How did you benefit from them? How did you find the mentors? How did you get a hold of mentors? And maybe Shannon, we'll start with you. Did you have a mentor when you after you launched the initial launch of your business, and how did you get a hold of them? How did you find them?
I think at the very beginning, John, you were one of my mentors, coming to the London Small Business Center to take just to learn a little bit about how to run a business, because my background is in health sciences and health promotion, and food security has nothing to do with running a business, although it's definitely helpful. So, the Small Business Center I found was quite helpful when I first started. And from that, I also met other entrepreneurs like me. I was really close to two of the founding members of Pulp and Press, and they were integral in helping me find a bottle supplier for Booch. I literally could not find a bottle that was affordable to put my kombucha in. And it was like the one thing that was really holding me back from even starting a business. So with their help, I was able to find that. And then additionally, I think like London has a lot of small businesses. Margaret and I are really close friends. So, I use her as a mentor even now, and we get together every month or so, and we're able to talk about, distributors and wholesalers and the landscape. And I think if you just put yourself out there and you're open to meeting those people, they will come in, and you'll always kind of develop that relationship, and you'll always learn something from them.
Great. Awesome. Margaret?
Sure. So yeah, I think like Shannon said, John, you were a huge help to me starting out as well. And like,
thanks very much. You
had it there, right? No, truly though, like I worked with a lot of those regional innovation centers and small business centers, and like pretty much any kind of entrepreneurial support program I could get my hands on, because I don't have a formal business background. I was so new to so many things, and those kinds of programs were incredibly helpful starting out. And like Shannon was saying, I think, my network of other entrepreneurs in the food space has been hugely beneficial to me. Like, Shannon was saying, she and I will get together and be like, did this account do this to you? And we can make sure that things are, going well for both of us, or we're kind of avoiding blind spots that we don't necessarily have to trip over. But since I think maybe a year and a half in, I have also had like a very primary mentor who I work with to this day, constantly. I talked to him on the phone twice today. He was a former CFO of a big CPG food and beverage company. And so he's retired now. Happened to meet him at a cocktail party when my mom moved into a new neighborhood and had all of her new neighbors over. And he's just been, a great mentor to me ever since. And actually is now a minority partner in the business. So he's been with me for 3.5 years, I think. And super helpful.
It just goes to show you have to have an open mind and look out for these individuals that are out there. They could be right in front of us, right? And we just have to acknowledge that these are individuals that will be able to help us in our venture. Kelvin, I know that you have a mentor, but tell us about how important your mentor has been to you, and how have you benefited?
Yeah, mentorship is extremely important, and I have learned pretty much everything from business. Yeah, a little bit from doing, but a lot from asking. So having a mentor who's kind of been there, done that you can bounce your ideas off and be like, hey, I want to do this. And then they'll, come back with you. Okay, well, have you considered all of these aspects of your idea? It's extremely important and beneficial to have somebody like that. Again, John, you were one of my mentors in the beginning as well.
Listen, clear the air and say that you have received no remuneration from me at any point, right?
So I think in the beginning, finding a mentor can be tough as well, but if you just put yourself there, go to the small business center. Leap Junction at college has been big as well. John, you say it to me time and time again, if I know the answer, find somebody who does. And that's kind of how you get your mentors to help you out. Even now, I'm only 5 years into it, and the more I realize I don't know. I'm more than happy to help somebody who needs help. So I'm doing my best to mentor somebody else as well who's starting a hospitality company, and it feels good to help somebody out with how far down the road you are. But having a mentor, I can't stress enough how important that is, and how important it is to try and look for one that, because they know things you don't, and it's always great. So.
Yeah, a parallel question that's come up on the board as well as about different organizations and different programs out there. I know that there are many, and maybe Shannon, I'll have you maybe mention one, and then Margaret, and then Calvin. And you mentioned Leap In as being one of them. Shannon, how about you? If you can mention one.
An organization?
Yeah, an organization, a program, other than the Small Business Center.
Well, we got a small grant through Propel, and they did like a 7 to 8 month mini business program with us.
Okay. And Margaret?
So I know we're in London, and London has a fabulous regional innovation center called Tech Alliance. But because I'm from the Hamilton area originally, I ended up working with Innovation Factory pretty early on, and they had a sort of Dragon's Den style pitch competition that I did in my maybe a year and a half into having the business, and it was fabulous because I had never written a formal business plan before. I was doing the farmers market and driving cheese in my car to Toronto once a week to go to different stores and things like that. But they had it started as essentially like a business plan writing competition, and then they whittled it down into a pitch competition that was aired on network TV, and we were a winner of that, which was hugely helpful to starting out. We ended up with like a lot of cash prizes and in-kind services, and they've been an incredible support ever since.
Awesome. So there are some out there. There's some grants and some programs out there that are helpful. It's just that maybe that you have to, the individual business has to find the program that's a good fit for them, and vice versa. All right. Another question on the board: if you had to start your business again from scratch, what is it that you would do that would be different? What would you do differently? Okay. So Margaret.
I think people ask me this question a lot, and there's like a lot of pitfalls that we've had, and like a lot of things have happened that have been really stressful. And it's, I think, having your own business and being an entrepreneur is like experiences like this all the time, where you feel like things are going amazing, and then the next day the world's ending. But I truly don't think that there's like one thing that I would do completely differently, because I've learned so much from all of the experiences that we've had. And, we've been sort of right place, right time is what I feel like. Like we work really hard, but we kind of hit the market at the right time as well. So I feel super fortunate, even for the hard times, because it taught me a lot about being a business owner and a boss.
Fantastic.
I know, I'm sorry.
Shannon.
I completely agree with Margaret. I wouldn't really want to change anything. I mean, I loved the entire startup just at the farmers market, and then slowly scaling up, and then now we're at our 13,000 square foot facility. It's been great, and I think along the way we've really stuck to our roots of producing a quality product. We're not skipping steps. We're still using the amazing ingredients that we're really proud of. Every part of it still feels good, and the things that didn't turn out, they've just taught me so much, So like Margaret said, like doing this, like if there's always the highs, there's always the lows, but like the mistakes are really, really valuable. And sometimes people just can't warn you enough. You have to actually live out the mistake, and that's where you learn the best. So
it's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Calvin?
Yeah, I don't think it's the answer they're looking for, but it's totally true. I don't think there's anything I would change either. If anything, it's best to make all those mistakes early on, so it costs a lot less money. If you make them, 5-10 years down the road, it costs a heck of a lot more money. So I don't think there's anything I would change. Just if you get out there and you start doing it, you'll learn as you go. And
Yeah. So okay, let's talk more about that. Let's talk about some of those things that maybe happened earlier on that you would not want to repeat. Was there anything at all that happened to each and every one of you in your journey that you wish that I wish I didn't do that, or I wish I didn't decide to do that? Kelvin?
I tried to get into the delivery business, like home delivery business. And this was one of the pivots I made with COVID. And the first 2 weeks, it was great. Everyone's like, oh, I don't have to go out to get fritters anymore. They'll come to my home and blah, blah, blah. But trying to keep that sustainable and on a website that was not built for e-commerce, there was so much that went wrong with it. And I ended up just calling 5 of my friends, being like, hey, we need to get like all these deliveries out in the next 5 hours. Can you help me out? That's something I would not like to repeat. But yeah, so that's my answer.
It's a whole different animal, delivery, isn't it?
You think you could just, we'll just start delivering to people's homes, and then you get all these orders, and you're like, how do I actually track all this and know the right fritters are going to the right place? And yeah, it was chaos. But
Shannon, how about you?
When I first started, we would make like 100 liters of kombucha a week. So we would take the 20-liter plastic pails, food grade, and ferment on those. But eventually, as it scaled up, we just kept fermenting in the 20-liter pails. So, originally I had 5, but then over like a year or a year and a half, we had like, I don't know, hundreds. So, every day we're lifting these 20-liter pails that are almost 60 pounds, and we're going from the ground all the way up to on top of the metal rack. So over time, it was so hard on our backs. But, having like the mind of an entrepreneur, just doing it every single day and like having back pain at night. And so I wish I just bought a 1,000-liter fermenter earlier on. But, the hard work, clearly it paid off. But
yeah, for sure. And you built some muscle along the way.
Yeah.
How about you, Margaret? If there was one thing that you would like to change from your early start, learning, what would that be?
We have like so many, and I'm sure both Calvin and Shannon do too, stories of just like ridiculous things that we did to make a lot of product in a really inefficient way. And so there's like so many things that we've changed over the years and so many things that we're still trying to change. But it's like little things, like we used to not have like a big mixer like Calvin would have for his dough probably, but we use that to aerate the cheese and to mix flavors into it. And, before we had that, we were using a cement mixer, things like that are just like, we have so many funny stories about like things that you did to make it work. And I don't know if this really answers the question, but like one of my favorite memories is when we first ever sent a pallet out to a big grocery store. It was the first pallet we ever wrapped, and we were at our old facility. We had this little tiny fridge that's like the size of the room I'm in now. You couldn't fit a full-size pallet through the door. So I had the carpenter next door would always saw our pallets in half for us so that we could palletize in the fridge. And we were so proud of ourselves. We like did this really horrible job making this pallet. It was all wonky and uneven. Nothing was like stacked properly, but we were like ready to get it out the door. And then the truck shows up and it didn't have a lift gate and we didn't have a raised dock. And so we all like, every one of us went outside and went around the pallet and we lifted it onto the truck.
That is so awesome that you can now tell us that story and laugh about it, right? I mean, that's a fantastic part. That is one of the, building these great memories is part and parcel of operating your own business for sure. Here's another question that's on the board. Did any of you start selling your products from home? Because obviously the viewer is saying it's so expensive to operate out of a certified kitchen. So what they want to know is, did you start making and selling your product from home?
We never did that. I think like it's funny when you're small too. I think a lot of people assume you're doing that. So that people used to come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah, you're making cheese in your basement, aren't you?" It's like, no, I'm not. But I think it's easy. Like it is expensive and it's a huge step to take to actually be renting a space. But we were lucky in the way that, like I was talking about before, having a space at the farmers market that is really affordable rent. There's very low commitment. You're not signing a 5-year lease. Those kinds of options are probably the best things to look into.
Right. Calvin?
I never did. However, when we first immigrated over, my dad did have a whole bakery in the basement. It was ridiculous, and it would never pass any kind of health inspections. But that's how he started. And no, but when I got started, it was out of my dad's bakery. So.
And Shannon, I know you said that you came up with the idea on your kitchen table, but can you expand on that?
Yeah. So even though I came up with the recipes there, I actually didn't sell anything that I made in my house, and you're actually not allowed to. you're not. But the one good thing about the Covent Garden market is there are these different health standards that have been grandfathered in because the market has been around for so long. So I do know firsthand some of the business owners there, some of the bakers, they actually are allowed to produce from home. So if you're looking for a really, really affordable way to just see if people are into your product, the Covent Garden market is the only one that I'm aware of in London. But I was lucky. I worked at a place called Eat Green Organics, and I was able to rent a little 10 by 10 space there. And it was affordable, and that's kind of how I was able to start.
No, you're absolutely correct, Shannon. The City of London and Middlesex London Health Unit, you cannot manufacture any food products in your home for resale. That is the policy. That is the regulation. And you're not allowed to do it. So we're not allowed to use our homes to manufacture food, any type of food or beverage for resale. Thank you for bringing that up. Let's switch over to again another business subject matter, and that is maybe a broader subject matter, not just specific to food. But can you tell our viewers a little bit about your target market when you first started? Can you speak to whether or not had you done any research? Had you identified a specific niche market or a target market for your products, and how did you conduct that research? So, Kelvin?
Yeah, so when I started out, I had a little bit of marketing experience. So, but I was like, who is a target market for fritters? I mean, I was like, everybody wants to buy fritters. It's like, who is target market for donuts? Everybody wants to buy donuts. But it's really, when you dive deeper into it, it's like, okay, but where am I selling at? Farmers markets, right? What kind of customers are going to farmers markets? We charge more for our fritters, those for our donuts, willing to pay a little bit for a local product, who shop kind of thing. So what we hone down to is something, we have whole 6-page documents on who our customer is, but basically what it comes down to is we put out the decision maker for households. So we target ages 25 to 45 who shop at markets, things like that, bit affluent, and yeah, you just kind of go through your questionnaire to find out who it is, but that's kind of just our main target market, people who believe in that local vibe, a little bit more for a higher quality product.
So Kelvin, you were cutting out there a little bit, and I'm wondering if I heard right. Did you say that women were your ideal target market for your fritters?
Yeah, and if we look at our Instagram analytics as well, 85% women, only 15 is men. So it's that's where it's.
That's an interesting statistic. So again, maybe you can tell us again, Kelvin. So how did you go about identifying your target market? What did you use to identify your target market?
I just used some old college notes from my marketing classes, and I kind of just put it together that way. I've now brought on a marketing company, Creative House, who is now helping me actually get a full, better idea of who our target market is and how we convert them into customers. But again, they're doing a lot of that work for me. But how I just did it, I just looked, I Googled like how to find a target market, break down, demographic, geographic, sociographic, all that, and just kind of figured it out that way.
For Shannon and for Margaret, your target market is more defined, but can you tell us, in the early stages, how you went after that target market? How did you maintain or attain a market share early on in your business, Shannon?
Sure. Yeah, at the beginning, I did not have a defined target market. I just wanted to see if people would want to drink kombucha. And over the years, actually similar to Kelvin, we've done some research with Sagecom. We love working with them. We did a survey, and I think we got results from over 900 people. So we were able to really hone in on our target market. 86% are women. Like Calvin said, ours are in the ages of 25 to 44. We know like their general average income. They're usually in a relationship. We know some very interesting things like what they're doing in their free time. They're reading or walking or eating out at a restaurant, but they're not like at parties. So now that we have that information, we're starting to use that and create different campaigns to kind of really target them. But yeah, at the very beginning, we actually had no idea, but it's mostly women that are drinking the booch and buying the booch. And then the men actually get hooked afterwards. Yeah.
Fair enough. And Margaret, how about you and Nuts for Cheese?
Yeah, so I think when I first started out, I assumed that it was just going to be like this wave of vegans that were the people that were going to buy our product. And I think the thing that I've learned is that over the years, like veganism and products like, kombucha and vegan cheese have become a lot more mainstream. And so now actually the majority of people that are buying our products are not vegan at all. They're just, people that, want a better for you product. They have a dietary sensitivity. There's a lot of people with lactose intolerance, a lot of people whose doctors have told them, that they shouldn't be consuming dairy for one reason or another. So it really kind of broadened my scope to access more of like a mainstream market than I thought I initially would be able to access.
Okay, very good. Now we've got less than 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes to go in this session, and I'd like to maybe ask each of you about if there was one lesson that you've learned from operating your business that you can share with our viewers. What would that be? And Shannon, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Sure. One lesson.
One important lesson that you can pass on to our viewers. What would that be?
I think having the ability to almost let go of control. Never is there a point in time where things can't just drastically change. Today someone could come into my office and tell me that they've decided to leave the company and they might be one of the most important people. I think it's kind of knowing that and expecting those things to come in and being able to quickly adapt, but without this like huge stress response, because the well-being of the owner, the big decision maker, is really important. So I think like operating like that, like ready for something with the ability to problem solve and come up with the answers quickly, but also to stay balanced because it is never ending. And as an entrepreneur, there will always be those things coming in, coming out all the time. So it's kind of like being ready for that too.
So being ready for the unexpected?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Calvin, how about you?
Yeah, I think Shannon's point is great. You got to be ready for the unexpected. My biggest thing would be know your numbers. Everything I've found in business has come down to your numbers, and any big decision that I've had to make, I've had to go back, look at my numbers, be like, okay, does this make sense? Like we recently introduced a new line of vegan fritters. So we have half a dozen vegan fritters now. And, I kind of just based that off. We introduced it slowly with the apple first, just to kind of test the market and everything. And it just, seeing the growing amount of, what did vegans, they doubled last year, like the vegan, if not more. Just, seeing the trends and just knowing the numbers of your own. But that kind of I'm just saying all the numbers in your business will help you decide future business decisions and help you be decisive. And that's on me every time someone with a question is like, did you look at your numbers? I was like, well, look at your numbers. I won't lie to you. So, no, my biggest lesson.
All right. And Margaret?
I like what both Calvin and Shannon said, but I think, my biggest sort of learning, I think, is like just that change is super constant. And you definitely need to have like a tolerance for change and for fear and for uncomfortable feelings. And it's a lot of stuff comes up when you have your own business, especially when you're working with people. And so I think it's pretty paramount to make sure that you're taking good care of yourself and sort of developing that resistance to different things being thrown at you all the time. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of everything.
Great advice from all three of you. One last question. I mean, it is Small Business Week, so if I could ask you, what are you doing this week to celebrate Small Business Week? So, Calvin, what are you doing specifically to celebrate Small Business Week? Anything?
Actually, after this, I'm having my parents over for sushi night.
Oh,
so
okay.
Celebrating that way.
Sushi fritters?
Not sushi fritters. No, maybe one day.
Shannon, how about you?
I'm having two of my friends over tonight too, so maybe we'll make it a part of it all. I made
there you go. Why not?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Margaret.
I don't know. I feel like I should be doing more to celebrate. I'm meeting a friend for a drink tonight at a restaurant, so maybe we'll have a toast.
There you go. Well, you know what? You've helped us at the Small Business Center celebrate Small Business Week right here, right now, and I want to thank you for being a part of this and sharing your wisdom, sharing your experiences with our viewers. I want to thank our viewers for joining us and making this a very engaging conversation, because the questions really never stop rolling through. So thanks very much, everyone. And if I have a message for each and every one of the viewers out there, buy local, support your local business, please. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.